Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. So talk a little bit, for people who haven't read the article about Google's food ordering experience, talk a little bit about what that was like, and we can get into the broader implications of that.
Sure. So I saw somebody mention on Twitter that Burger King seemed to be having they saw on Twitter where Burger King now had an order button next to the locations in the 3-pack. So I did the search on my phone, and I had a slightly different experience where I saw what was essentially a branded pack result, which is an integration of the full brand knowledge graph plus the local information into a singular display, and where you could learn about the brand as well as see the 3 nearest locations. And at the top of that, big, bold, very easy to see, hard to miss, were 2 options: order for pickup and order for delivery. And I was curious, so I clicked the order for delivery, and it took me into their new back-end ordering system for restaurants that they've built on their platform.
And is this based on the ordering app?
It's not based on the ordering app. It's different from the ordering app. The ordering app, this is a back-end that's being built out simultaneously to the ordering app. The ordering app is, again, for smaller businesses. This is for bigger businesses that are already enterprise level, right? And it was amazing. They knew where I was located. They guessed of the 3 Burger Kings that were near me, they guessed the one that was closest. They presented in a very fluid way the whole menu. I was able to easily add the main items I wanted and the condiments, clicked order, and because I've transacted with Google in the past, they knew my credit card information already. So the only thing I had to enter was the CVC. So literally, I mean, from beginning to end, it took 1 minute and 16 seconds. I timed it. I only had to enter, there was 8 clicks, 4 keystrokes, and I was done. So it was very, very fluid. It was like magic. And I wasn't even sure, there was no indication who was delivering it. There was very little. They guessed my location. I'm in a 7th floor building. I wasn't even sure how they were going to find me, although I am on the main directory. And I thought, well, and I placed an order for $2.98 because it said there were no delivery fees. I thought, God, this is going to cost me $10 to get a bag of chicken nuggets as the experiment.
Did you eat the nuggets?
I did. Yes. That's the one failure in the experiment, that I couldn't resist them. And I've been so good throughout the whole pandemic, and I ate the fucking Burger King nuggets, but they weren't bad. They weren't bad. God only knows what was in them. Anyways, they, literally 22 minutes later, there's a knock on my door, and I open the door, and there's a gentleman there with a DoorDash hat and a beautiful bag with this one little item in it that he hands over to me. And I have everything. I mean, and they can only do this because they have all this great local graph. They have the great platform to deliver it on. They have all my credit card information. They have a relationship with Burger King, and obviously somebody's subsidizing the DoorDash component because the only fee was the 44-cent tip for the driver.
What a worthless tip for the driver. That's unfortunate.
Yes. But there was no option to leave an additional tip or anything. And I didn't have any cash money.
So, there's a lot of discussion about personalization, and, it comes up in the context of ads often, with Facebook sort of complaining about the how iOS 14.5 is going to, destroy personalized advertising or adversely impact it. But it strikes me that what you've described is the kind of personalization that people really want, right? They want the convenience of having to do less. The efficiency and convenience that experience exemplifies is really what embodies personalization, I think, as the consumer thinks about it.
Yes, and it's largely based on localization by virtue of them knowing so much about me through my phone and my Google identity.
And localization has always been the sort of low-hanging fruit of personalization, or the core of personalization, depending on how we want to talk about it.
I think in this case, it's the core of personalization because it doesn't have the privacy implications or the creepiness of personal information.
Right, because they're not inferring anything. I mean, they're inferring location, but you have given them, you have explicitly consented to a lot of stuff with payments and giving them your location. They're using your current location as opposed to your home location, but you, most of that information you've given them willingly and voluntarily.
That's absolutely
yeah. And it's a great user experience. I mean, one of the interesting, we were talking before we started that Amazon in a way is the model for all of this with its kind of one-click checkout approach, where they've got so much information on file. They've got all your addresses, your address book, your payment information, and they've really made transacting with them, especially on a mobile phone, very fast and easy. And now Google is trying to do that not just for food ordering, but presumably for a range of other kinds of categories as well.
Hotels, products, we're seeing it, right? But what is fascinating too, though, is done without an app.
I think, right. So
totally web-based.
Right. So that's really interesting. And it's something that I really didn't focus on when I initially read your article, edited your article, is that was something that Google was very focused on in the very beginning when Apple initially introduced the App Store. And there was a lot of discussion about Google being disintermediated by apps because, Steve Jobs' famous quote about search hasn't really happened on mobile because the belief was that Google was a middleman. Why would you need a middleman when you could go directly to these apps and transact or get the information you wanted directly from the brands and not have to do this kind of 10 blue links thing and so on and so forth. And so Google was working very hard for a long period of time to improve the mobile web experience, to make it more competitive with apps. You could see AMP as a version of that, right? I mean, AMP is in an attempt to speed up, which they've now sort of walked away from somewhat, speed up the mobile web. The core Web Vitals update is about making the mobile web a faster, more user-friendly place. So a lot of Google's thinking and effort and carrots and sticks has gone into making the mobile web a more user-friendly, app-like environment, frankly, so that Google can continue to be central to everything, right? And if they succeed in inserting themselves into all these different commerce scenarios, that's even going to be more true. And the fact that they can do that without an app, is really significant because only the most loyal customers will download apps typically. And so you lose, 90% of the audience if you're compelling them to do something on an app.
Yes. And one has to ask though, who got screwed in the delivery? Who's subsidizing the delivery? Because I paid nothing for delivery of a $2.98 thing. Or,
it's got to be Google who's paying for it, because DoorDash has no interest in commoditizing itself, right? I mean, the thing that Google is going to do is make delivery completely a commodity. If they remove the direct relationship between the user and the delivery service, which is trying to disintermediate the restaurant in a certain way, then they just become a commodity, and it's sort of this, anybody can deliver it, who's the cheapest, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Which is where Google really wants to be. They never have done that well in the real world. And this gives them the ability to, somebody has to flip the burgers. Somebody has to deliver the burgers. Google doesn't want to get their hands dirty.
Or greasy, as the case may be.
Or greasy, as the case may be, right? Correct. They want to just sit, help with discovery and take discovery through the transaction. They're very happy sitting in that space.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.